Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Martin Luther King honoring and celebration service at Unity of Mesa, where we enlighten, empower, and energize one another to uplift our world through a greater expression of God. And we are so glad to have you join us. We have a cast of hundreds today, and I am Reverend Judy Hildebrand, who, along with Reverend Kathy Kellogg, we serve as the ministers at Unity of Mesa. This is probably our 5th year doing Martin Luther King celebrations, I believe. And let's just go ahead and get started. So I'd like to introduce Tony LaMantia. He, along with Karen Pifer, run our Sangha group, where they do a Buddhist tradition of meditation, Buddhist practice of meditation through the Buddhist tradition on a weekly basis, and they have quite a lively group going on right now. And so he's going to offer our opening prayer for us.
Good evening. My name is Tony LaMantia. Would you please join me in prayer? Please place your hands over your heart as we pray together. Wonderful and life-giving Holy Spirit, we gather tonight to celebrate the life and legacy of our brother, Dr. Martin Luther King. We come together as a living and breathing example of the beloved community Dr. King envisioned for the world. Tonight we honor his life of peace, understanding, inspiration, action, and a call to all brothers and sisters to live together in harmony and in God's grace. We celebrate his unwavering struggle for our world to achieve a place of equality, justice, and respect for all. We celebrate in his name his powerful insights, inspiring words of great wisdom, and his vision of a world where all of God's brothers and sisters, young and old, are accepted as one body with the same universal and eternal spirit of love. Love, justice, equality, understanding, acceptance, respect, transformation, and action. These are the words he not only spoke, but lived by. Tonight, together, we take a stand to do our best in bringing Dr. King's vision of the beloved community to both inside and outside our homes and in our interactions with all people. We will be the example of His love, His struggle, and our vision for a more peaceful and just world. And so it is. Amen.
Thank you very much. We so appreciate you. And next in our lineup, I'd like to introduce a woman who's part of our congregation, whom I had the opportunity to get to know a little bit at depth last fall when we started our Dismantling Racism program. And she's a powerful, dynamic woman. I invited her to pick out something that she would like to share with you from Martin Luther King. And so she spent some time and she read quite a few of his speeches and found this one, this piece, that speaks to our times. And so I introduce now Gail Tillery.
This is a speech taken from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s 10th speech. It is called, "Where Do We Go From Here?" I thought this was most appropriate because of what we're going through at this time in the country. His speech was made on August 16, 1967, at the Southern Christian Leadership Conference in Atlanta. So I conclude by saying again today that we have a task, and let us go out with a divine dissatisfaction. Let us be dissatisfied until America will no longer have a high blood pressure of creeds and an anemia of deeds. Let us be dissatisfied until the tragic walls that separate the outer city of wealth and comfort and the inner city of poverty and despair shall be crushed by the battering rams of the forces of justice. Let us be dissatisfied until those that live on the outskirts of hope are brought into the metropolis of daily security. Let us be dissatisfied until the slums are cast into the junk heaps of history and every family is living in a decent sanitary home. Let us be dissatisfied until the dark yesterdays of segregated schools will be transformed into bright tomorrows of quality, integrated education. Let us be dissatisfied until integration is not seen as a problem, but as an opportunity to participate in the beauty of diversity. Let us be satisfied until men and women, however Black they may be, will be judged on the basis of the content of their character and not on the basis of the color of their skin. Let us be dissatisfied until every state capital houses a governor who will do justly. who will love mercy, and who will walk humbly with his God. Let us be dissatisfied until from every city hall justice will roll down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. Let us be dissatisfied until that day when the lion and the lamb shall lie down together, and every man will sit under his own vine and fig tree, and none shall be afraid. Let us be dissatisfied, and men will recognize that out of one blood God made all men to dwell upon the face of the earth. Let us be dissatisfied until that day when nobody will shout white power, when nobody will shout black power, but everybody will talk about God's power and human power. I must confess, my friends, the road ahead will not be smooth. There will still be rocky places of frustration and meandering points of bewilderment. There will be inevitable setbacks here and there. There will be those moments when the buoyancy of hope will be transformed into the fatigue of despair. Our dreams will sometimes be shattered and our ethereal hopes blasted. We may again, with tear-drenched eyes, have to stand before the bier of some courageous civil rights worker whose life will be snuffed out by the dastardly acts of bloodthirsty mobs. Difficult and painful as it is, we must walk on in the days ahead with an audacious faith in the future. A great freedom fighter of yesterday, James Weldon Johnson, wrote, "Stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod felt in the days when hope unborn had died. Yet with a steady beat, have not our weary feet come to the place for which our fathers sighed? We have come over the way that with tears hath been watered. We have come threading our paths through the blood of the slaughtered. Out from the gloomy past till now we stand at last, where the bright gleam of our bright star is cast." Let this affirmation be our ringing cry. It will give us the courage to face the uncertainties of the future. It will give our tired feet new strength as we continue our forward stride toward the city of freedom. When our days become dreary with low hovering clouds of despair, and when our nights become darker than 1,000 midnights, let us remember that there is a creative force in the universe working to pull down the gigantic mountains of evil, a power that is able to make a way out of no way and transform dark yesterdays into bright tomorrows. Let us realize the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. Let us realize that William Cullen Bryant is right. Truth crushed to earth will rise again. Let us go out realizing that the Bible is right. Be not deceived. God is not mocked. Whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. This is our hope for the future. And with this faith, we will be able to sing in some not too distant tomorrow with the cosmic past tense. We have overcome. We have overcome. Deep in my heart, I did believe we would overcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. And now I'd like to introduce one of our longtime congregants. She started in Unity as a teen and has been an incredible leader throughout the teen movement at that time. And she has been a blessing to our congregation. So I would like to introduce Erika Bowman to do our meditation for us this evening. One of the things we do practice in our tradition is a meditative practice. And so please enjoy as you follow her guidance.
Good evening. My name is Erika Bowman, and it is a sacred privilege and honor to facilitate the meditation this evening. And so I just invite you to just become comfortable in your chair or wherever you are at. Become comfortable in that space. Close your eyes. And now let's just focus on our breath. Just taking a deep breath and exhale. Taking another deep breath and exhale. And one last deep breath. And exhale. Feel that air, your breath, the life of your breath, moving throughout your body. And feel that breath settling within your core. The core, which is your divine nature. A section of the prayer of Saint Francis of Assisi. I'm going to read it, and I just invite you to listen to the words. Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace, that where there is hatred, I may bring love. That where there is wrong, I may bring the spirit of forgiveness. That where there is discord, I may bring harmony. And so just taking a deep breath as you think about the words in that section of the prayer. And so knowing that we are all beacons of light, we are all reflections of spirit. We are here to show up in this world and allow spirit to work in us, as us, and through us. We claim that power. We claim that love. We claim that faith. We claim that grace. and we claim that strength. And so I invite you, as we go into the time of silence, to just think about the prayer and think about being a beacon of light. So in wrapping up our time of meditation, I invite you to bring your awareness back to the room. Wiggle your toes, your fingers, bounce your legs, move your arms, move your head, and open your eyes. And know that as we show up in the world, we are peace, we are love, we are forgiveness, and we are harmony. And we show up as all of that, as we are divine beings. And Spirit is working in us, as us, and through us.
And now I would like to introduce our musician for the evening, Mr. Walt Richardson. I've known him since probably 2003, and he's always brought this amazing spiritual gift with him and expresses it through his music. And we've been very blessed to have him be able to lay down a song for us this evening in honor of Martin Luther King Day. So I now turn it over to Walt Richardson.
Coming alive, love's coming alive. Coming alive, love's coming alive. Do you remember crystal blue persuasion? Do you remember all the riots in the streets? I remember the anti-demonstration. I remember this nation's cry for peace. Coming alive, love's coming alive. 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 Come, she said, bring me all you're hungry. Come, she said, bring me all you're poor. Quench your thirst from the saving water. Dry your eyes and shed these tears no more. Coming alive, love's coming alive. 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 In this world of human relations, in this world of war and peace, whatsoever you do to the least of my brothers, that you also do to you and me. Coming alive, love's coming alive. 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 Some see this ending in total destruction. Some see this ending in rapture and glee. I say it's work and it's under construction. The road is hard, but the pace must never cease. Coming alive, love's coming alive. 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 Hey, love's coming alive, coming alive.
Thank you. We so appreciate your talents and your gifts that you share. And it's my honor right now to talk about a program that we did at Unity in Mesa last fall. We started it last fall. It came out of a program developed at Unity of San Diego with Reverend Wendy Craig Purcell. And they started working with this 3 years ago. It's Dismantling Racism. And it's looking at the issues of racism, especially in this country, and relative to Black people, African American people. And we know that there is racism and prejudices across all groups, but this was very specifically for that situation, for that group of people. And what is it in this country that has kept this so kept it going and why have we been so slow to make this transformation, this change? So Unity and Mesa chose to pick the program up, and we had 3 groups meeting over a 10-week period last fall, and we started looking at what does it mean to dismantle racism, and how do we educate ourselves better. Our Black congregants, our African American congregants, talked about what it's been like within their group, about what it's been like to live as a Black person within the United States, and what it's been like to live as a Black person in our local community and our church community. And it was eye-opening for me, quite an education. Then our 2 Aspiring White Allies group started the hard work of looking at what it means to have white privilege, what the history is that has held racism and given racism just a such a strong continuing foothold in this country. And what does it really, what does it mean to be black in this society? What are those things that keep you from being able to do something with more ease and grace? And the roadblocks are big, they are hard, they are sometimes dangerous to move through and around for our people of color in this country. So there wasn't anyone who took the group with us, who walked through this journey with us over the 10-week period, that didn't come out going, I didn't know. I didn't know. I taught history. I didn't know all of the history. I didn't have accurate information even as a teacher. I did not have access to it. And so we did lots of study. We did lots of discussion about it. We looked at our own behaviors. We looked at what were our belief system. It was a powerful group, and many of them had said yes to coming forward and talking a little bit about what they got out of the group. So I invite the Dismantling Racism groups to come forward and share with you what we are doing to move forward with racism in this country.
Everybody, I'm Susan Rice, and some things I've learned is a lot of history I had not been aware of. I learned that not everyone thinks like me, and not everyone thinks. So I learned that racism really isn't my fault. However, by studying some of these things, I found out how we all have a role in it. And if we change our awareness, we can change our actions, which causes changing the system. I feel like racism is like a soup that we're all in, and we all played a different role in it. And a lot of us unknowingly. However, once we become aware, we can make changes. And most of the problems with racism deal with inequalities, that if you're in a different group, you don't have the same advantages to education, to healthcare, to jobs, to housing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I benefited from the dialogue with two of my friends who were Black, which at first I was afraid to do, but it really was not that as hard as I thought. So that was good, and I did learn something from them. I really liked the book, How to Become an Anti-Racist, How to Be an Anti-Racist, because it's got short enough, interesting enough stories that I can relate the stories to principles. So this is where I learned a lot of history and a lot of thoughts that I didn't want to think and didn't want to feel, but now that I know, I can help being part of the change. So thank you.
Sheila Pilger. And for this group, one of the things that really I became aware of was white privilege, which a year ago, I would have not said that I had enjoyed white privilege. So that's a big vocabulary aha for me. And I also learned that it's not enough just to say I'm not racist, but to be anti-racist is my goal. And trying to figure out how to do that. This group has been a big help to me, and I've really appreciated the support of the group and the discussions. One of the books that I liked very much was Waking Up White, which comes at it from a level of really more closer to my experience. So it was an eye-opening, and it's really introduced me to and made me aware of lots more pop culture that we can, movies that we have been watching during the quarantine. And and seeing the systemic racism lots of places that I wouldn't not have seen it before. So I am grateful to this group and all of the support. And I would encourage anyone and everyone who has the opportunity to participate to just do it.
I'm Sheila's husband, and I'm anxious to learn and real experiences. And I feel, since I'm in my 90s with some health issues, some minor ones, why I'm really paranoid about the exposure to this virus. So my exposure is very limited. I'm staying home, staying away from other people. But we have shared a book recently that I read a couple of chapters a day and then we discuss it as we go. And it's about Jefferson, the fellow who wrote our Constitution about all men are created equal. And of course, he was a slave owner and had a sexual relationship with one of his slaves and had a couple of children that way as a couple with his other wife, his real wife who died. And it just brings home to me that's not just what I was not aware of what now. I don't know the history as it really existed in our country. And the foundation of our country has blemishes in it that I was totally unaware of. And it's been an eye-opener. But what I really can learn is when I can communicate with other people. That sounds like it's going to be, maybe 4 or 5 more months before I can do that. So all I've learned so far is that I really don't know much about what really is going on in our lives as far as race relationship. It's too edited and too concealed. And so I'm naive and ignorant and know it, and I'm anxious to learn.
My name is Rosemary, and what I've learned in this class is that it's given me an opportunity to talk to my Black friend who is a nurse, carry on a conversation with her about Black Lives Matter, and that we're still talking about. Some other things are, it's opened my mind to the fact that, and I did not know that America is built on a caste system, which I hope in the future that we can abolish that. This summer I read a couple of books that were very interesting. They were novels, however, based on true facts. One was about Hercules, General Washington's cook. And at his time, it was illegal to teach Black people to read. And Hercules learned to read by walking through the town and looking at where people were going into different stores and figured out the alphabet. The other book was The Invention of Wings, took place from like 1803 to 1839 or 40. And the Grimsky sisters, they wanted to be, their father was a judge and they wanted to be a judge and they wanted to abolish slavery. And this class has really opened up my mind to see that I am white and I'm privileged, but I was born into it. And hopefully with the new administration that's coming in, we can abolish some of the things that are going on. And I'm ready to end this with some good trouble. Thank you for your listening.
I'm Donna Cole, and I am so grateful to have been a part of this group. I have awakened to the fact that I know nothing about white privilege, and admittedly, I was one of those people in the early days when Black Lives Matter started. I was one of those people that said all lives matter. And through all of this, I've learned that that's just really backwards, that all lives cannot matter until Black lives and other people's lives of color matter. And we're not in this country allowing that to happen yet. So I'm hopeful that that can change. I feel personally like I've had my head in the sand for most of my life and have been able to pull it out and start learning a lot of things about just the whole issues of what's going on in this country, how it's been from the beginning. As other people have mentioned, the founding fathers, they were slave owners and they built everything to continue to be slave owners. And I never really understood that or looked at it. So I'm really grateful to have had this class, and I'm hoping to continue the work to read more, to learn more, and to try my best to become a real white ally. Thank you.
And hi, my name is Sharon Meslanka. And yes, I really love this class. You know, after the 60s and civil rights, I thought racism was taken care of. And but I also have people of color in my family, Black, Hispanic, and Native American. So I did see that there was some racism that they had to deal with. My grandson, who is biracial, Black, moved in with me when he was a senior in high school. So I did experience, now I know what Black mothers feel like. He was a teenager and I was always a little afraid of law enforcement. So I had that in the back of my mind, but I wasn't sure. I just had a feeling about it. So reading the books, I realized that is a concern. And then seeing the George Floyd movie, that video really made this more concrete. Now, what I like about this program, it gave me some concrete action I could do. So it's one thing to be thinking about it, but to have something concrete. So I was able to talk to my financial planner for my 401k. I was able to get a mutual fund that didn't support private prisons. Also on Netflix, I watched some good documentaries. 13th is one of them. And I had nice conversations with Black people that I know, and where they were able to share some things with me. So I guess when I first read the book, White Fragility, I was a little defensive. I said, well, I'm not racist. I got people of color in my family. I'm progressive. But then I realized that I can't help but be racist. It's not my fault. I just live in a racist culture. And there's some things I can do. I don't have to be complicit. There's some concrete things I can do to change. And I can be with a group that's interested in change and being progressive. So it really gave me a lot of hope, because I was aware of it, but I felt really helpless and powerless. So now I found out that I don't have to be helpless, that there is some concrete things I can do. So, so thank you for letting me share.
Hi, my name is Sandy Schmidt, and this class brought so many things to light that I had not thought about. It's amazing to me how ingrained racism is, even though we think we're not racist, like she mentioned, we are. And it is part of our culture. And it's really scary when you think about that and realize that whether you like it or not, you are racist. But again, there are some things that you can do about it. So through this class, I read the book Just Mercy, and it was a hard one to get through because he, as a lawyer growing up, does an apprenticeship in the South, and basically he defends Black men and women who have no money and no way to defend themselves. And some of the things in there were very, very, very disturbing. However, I learned a lot from that. And he made a lot of progress in getting things done, which he still continues to do through the Equal Justice Initiative. And so one of the things that I've done is I went to their website, and so every day I get a story about racial injustice, and that has really helped me keep on track and stay aware of what's going on. I'm still shocked in this day and age that there is so much racial inequity, and especially when it comes to the justice system. I mean, it's like, okay, if you're Black, you're guilty until somebody can prove you innocent. And there are so many that have been locked up and thrown the key away that are innocent. The other thing that really blows my mind, and Sharon kind of touched on this, is I can't even begin to imagine that when I leave my house that I have to worry about what I'm going to do. Am I going to get stopped by a policeman? Are they going to find a reason to throw me in jail? Am I going to say the wrong thing to, if I'm Black, to a white person, or look at them the wrong way and then I'm in trouble? I mean, I can't even imagine living like that. And yet our culture has produced exactly that, so that Black people have to learn how to live in our white world, which is ridiculous. So, you know, all in all, this class was just an incredible eye-opener to me. And I'm very, very grateful to have been a part of that. And I'm looking forward to continuing that and seeing what we can do to get things back in whack, because they never have been in whack. It's always been, you know, the scaled system, whatever. But hopefully this will be the beginning of something good in this day and age. So thank you so much.
My name is John Groves, and I first want to express my appreciation to Reverend Judy, Reverend Kathy for facilitating all the discussion that we've had and formulating the assignments we've been given to advance our understanding of some of these issues that we've been talking about now. I chose for a book Kendi's Stamped from the Beginning, which was a fairly comprehensive history of slavery and its effects, the ongoing repercussions of racist attitudes that we've lived with in our society for now several hundred years. And I found that a very difficult book to read. When I was a teenager, I had occasion to read Black Like Me, about a white journalist who, with the aid of medications, assumed a Black identity to learn what it was like to be Black, and wrote about his experiences traveling through the South at the time, back in the early 60s. And it made quite an impression on me then, so that I assumed, well, I'm sensitive to these questions, and having Hispanic background in my own background, I felt like, well, I'm sensitive to these issues and I'm not a racist. But there's a lot more to the issue of racism than just what you think of your circumstances. You have to consider to what degree you become complicit in what happens around you, and whether you stand up for right when injustice rears its ugly head, because it happens all too frequently. I've seen it in the legal justice system. I've seen it in policing, and it's all very, very disturbing when you try to bring it all together. I'm also appreciative of the fact that this program, as Judy and Kathy have envisioned it, is more than just trying to develop some understanding of these social issues. It's an effort to create opportunities for new directions, for service and activities that might actually make significant changes over time, at least, in the way we deal with these questions. And I'm certainly wanting to participate further to see where that takes us. Initially, I've been absorbed with the historical questions, learning more and more about our history. The Project 1619 that the New York Times editorial board ushered in as a way to advance understanding in this area. There are many areas of potential involvement, and I'm looking forward to participating in one form or another. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Erika Bowman. First of all, like John said, I am extremely honored to be part of a church, a spiritual home that chose to no longer sit quietly and initiate action and dialogue about racial injustice, discrimination, racism, and some of the things going on in the world or in our country. As a African-American female, when I was approached to participate and have the dialogue, participate in this group and be part of the dialogue with the African-American congregants, I will say I felt a little like, I think as African-American people, we are conditioned to not share our experiences and our struggles because it makes people uncomfortable. And I can say as a 46-year-old, I have never had an opportunity in which I have been invited to honestly share my experiences and how my own experiences, seeing what occurs on television with frequent murders, shootings, assaults of African Americans, male and female. I have never had the opportunity to share how that makes me feel or how that impacts my ability to be in this world. Being part of this helped me realize the importance of sharing my experiences, no matter how difficult they are to be shared, and no matter how difficult it may be for people to hear them. I think part of that conditioning as an African-American person is, well, it happens to all of us, and that's not okay. I know that this process has allowed me to hear what some of the elders in the African-American group experienced. Disheartening that some of my experiences that I've had are ones that they had years and years ago, that it's still going on, whether it be in the workplace, whether it be out in the community, whether it be interactions with the police. But I was very encouraged by the words of encouragement provided in that group, and the conversation about how we can take action with the white allies that have participated in this program. Because for a long time, racism has been a situation that Black people have needed to figure out themselves. And it's heavy and it's exhausting. But to know that now there is conversation, and now people are opening their eyes and expanding their awareness to truly have a dialogue about what we can all do to come to the table and actually put feet on our prayers, take action, be a voice. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to participate in this group. And I thoroughly look forward to the continued progress and meeting of the minds and actions and activities and even connections that will be fostered in this group. Thank you.
My name is Floyd, and in order for you to understand more of how this experience and what an impact it had on me, I'm going to share a little more personal experiences because of that. What really stands out for me about the class experience is learning what I didn't know about racism and white fragility specifically. Remembering my age and that I was raised in the 40s and 50s in a small southeastern rural community in Colorado, all white. And then in the early 60s, I went to Texas for my undergraduate work. And while I was there, one of my part-time jobs was working in a small mom and pop grocery store right on the edge of the Black community. And I was clerk, cashier, and delivery person for that store. So that offered me a lot of experiences and interactions in the Black community. And that would have been my first coming from southeastern Colorado. So that was in the early 60s. And then in the early 70s, we moved to Florida. And I was working at a community college, and my first job there, or my job there, they had just at that point went into desegregation with the Black community college and the white community college in our town. So part of my job was teaching, and I, just as an aside, the night that Martin Luther King was killed, I was teaching a class on the Black campus to an all-Black class. And that turned out to be a very interesting and learning experience. So all of that, and then having the opportunity to take this class, and the resources that were provided through the White Allies class were remarkable in helping me learn and understand what I didn't know, and creating a new sense of awareness and sensitivity about this learning. And like John, I'm very excited about when we can all come together to go further with this conversation and learning that we're trying to experience. So Judy and Kathy and the church, thank you for making it happen.
Hi, my name is Wanda Land, and my experience with the White Allies class was both heartbreaking and hopeful. Heartbreaking because in the resources that we had, I learned more about what it's really like to be Black and live in America. And there were heartbreaking stories that we all shared and learned. But I was hopeful because of groups like this. I think that more whites are seeing that we have a role in making changes. The whole concept of white fragility was a new term for me. But what was really bothering me is why? Why have we not made more progress? Why is it so slow, and why is it so hard? So I really did some study in our history, and it just hurt my feelings to remember that in 1860, Jefferson Davis, at that time, was a Mississippi senator. This is what he said, and I'll quote, "This government was founded by white men for white men." So if that's how we started, we had a long ways to go. And what I've seen, being a woman who had some of those feelings, white women have made progress, but very few Blacks are in powerful positions even today. So that progress is pretty limited. And the other piece that I felt like was helping me understand why we are not making progress was the concept that Americans have about individualism and hard work. So you see people deciding that, well, the Blacks, they don't work as hard. They're inferior. That's why they're not having as much success. I don't buy that. That's not true. And when you think about it, when do these inequalities happen? And as an educator, I knew they happened before they came to school. I saw it on a regular basis. But you know what? It even happens before that. It happens in the prenatal care that the mother got before they were even born. So we can't keep looking the other way when we know there's that kind of inequality out there. The schools that many of the Black students go to, the lack of opportunities for further education. These things make the difference in whether or not they can be successful. To give that good old individualism, pick up your bootstraps as the only way to be successful. No, some people have opportunities that the Blacks don't have. And we have to stop kidding ourselves about that. So that was some of the heartbreak. But as many of you have said, it's groups like this, it's all the people that marched with Black Lives Matter. There were many, many, many whites marching right along with the Blacks. And I wish I'd been younger and in a different situation, I'd have been out there marching with them, because that's what it's going to take. So I'm just thankful that I got to have this experience, and I don't want to stop. I'm going to continue the reading and continue being involved. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Julie, and I too did not know what I did not know. That phrase just kept running through my mind as I went through our time together with the White Allies group. For example, I had no idea that Black mothers in this country will often have to draw their kids aside and have the talk about the realities of what life is likely going to be for their children. The lack of access, and these are things that a few others have mentioned too, I know, but it's shocking to me that simple things like internet access, quality education, so many things that my kids have never had to face. So that was a real eye-opener for me. I also began scanning my beliefs, my thoughts, my actions, and asking myself how in fact am I complicit? And it was a bit tough to push through the barrier, because I kind of knew, yeah, I'm a part of the whole web of existence, and yeah, I must have some little role in it, but the whole question became more real for me. So I pushed through, and you know, it's interesting, some of the phrases that I learned. Now, remember, well, you might not know, but I grew up in Australia, and of course, we have a different set of issues. Some are quite similar to here. But there are a couple of phrases that came from this country that were very, very racist toward African American that found their way into my family, and I picked up on them. And my husband and I were just reviewing the other day, like, yeah, we said that, and we said that, and we didn't really know what it meant. But now as we think about it, we've put two and two together. So that's how subtle it can be, and certainly it was subtle for me. And more than just a little shocking when I finally realized, you know, the things that I'd just been saying in passing all these years. Another important thing that I realized as I was going through, you know, a few of us were talking about how we have conversations with our friends who are Black, and also conversations with people who we would really like to give a serving to because they just don't get it. But the importance of having love, of leading gently, of kindness, even though inside we really want to get on our soapbox. So that's something that for me was an important thing to remember. And it goes both ways, you know. People who are on the other side might think that, you know, my views are not valid, and they might want to give me a serving, and just to be loving when I hear them, because we can all learn from each other. There's no doubt about it. So we need to lead gently to be loving, unless, of course, you're my daughter. And she's been listening to a few of the things that I've been sharing as a result of this group. But I thought it was just a great example of how in generations, I think we have hope. She went on a date, and her date just would not be quiet about how all lives matter, and no matter what she said, he would not listen to it. So on he went, and in the end, she just excused herself and walked out on that date and came home much earlier than she normally does. But I thought, well, is that leading with love? In a way it is, tough love. And yeah, inside I was cheering for her. And like I said, it does give me hope for the future. So we all need to hang in there and lead in our own way, but always with love. It was an awesome group, and I'm thrilled to be a part of it and look forward to what's ahead.
Hi, my name is Kenya Cribb, and it has been such an honor to be a part of this group and to actually share my many stories of being an African American woman. So in this group, I learned that we are more alike than we are different. But one thing that I noticed during our group is that the world thrives so much on chaos. Chaos of racial injustice, chaos of social injustice, chaos of like financial injustice, as well as gender injustice. But over the last 6 or 7 or 8 months, through all of these injustices that has happened, this class has allowed me to become a greater voice for my community. In addition to becoming a greater voice for my community, it has also allowed me to understand that most people want peace throughout our world. So through all of that, I have learned that growing up as an African American female, my parents, they always taught me to be better, to always try to strive to be better in everything that I do. And I never really realized, why was I trying to be better? But the world and the society always had that stigma over me being an African American woman. And I did not realize it until I got of a certain age to realize I'm striving against the stigma. But this class has taught me that if we all stand together and we all declare and live together as one, that we are all equal, that we can make a change irrespective of our gender, irrespective of our socioeconomic status, and any perceived differences. So one of the things that I have decided to do, I have decided to join the committee with the Mesa Police Department and Unity of Mesa. And one of the things that I want to do is to help them to be able to de-escalate any situations between people of color and the police department. And so I'm hoping to help, to assist in any way that I can. And this group has allowed me to do that. So I just want to say I'm looking forward to more meetings with the group. I appreciate this opportunity to share my stories of racial injustice here in Arizona. And so thank you so much, and I'm looking forward to more conversations. Thank you.
Thank you, Kenya, for sharing yourself with us. One of the things that I've learned in this class is the conscious awareness of my actions. And like Julie spoke of, things that we're not even aware of. The word that sticks mostly in my mind is microaggression, a term that means brief or commonplace daily verbal, behavioral, or environmental indignity, whether it's intentional or unintentional, that communicates hostile, derogatory, or negative attitudes towards stigmatized or culturally marginalized groups. So by having that conscious awareness that these little almost subliminal things come into my life on a daily basis, I humbly have to learn from these experiences, my own experiences, and also experimental, I guess, realities as we're doing, interacting with people of color, things that we're not really used to all of the time. I also learned that in communication, I can't be defensive, that white fragility is not something that I'm very proud of. So I have to be open to discuss my attitudes and biases and how they might hurt others. And I also have to be ready to reveal my own inequalities. So as I stand by an ally, one of the things that came to mind in this awareness was watching CBS Sunday Morning about Leslie Uggams. Now we remember her. Some of you will remember her as a newcomer to TV. She was hired by NBC to sing and appear on Mitch Miller. Remember the Bouncing Ball show? And when executive realized after they had approved a contract to her that she was Negro, and that was the word that they used that day, they considered cutting her appearances and her airtime. And Mitch, who was under contract for the whole season, also explained his ultimatum, said that she either is on all of the shows or he is not. So that kind of brave gesture of action is something that, of course, I don't own a TV company or anything like that, but I want to stand as a white ally, and I want to be aware of the little things that sometimes I might not even consciously be aware of, but because this class has brought it alive so vividly, that my action as I move forward is to be better educated, and I know I can strive to be an anti-racist. Thank you.
I'm Karen Pifer, and I also have really appreciated being in this class and sharing both the reading and the discussion with people. I mean, people were being quite real with where they were, where they came from, what they were bringing to the discussion, and, a level of honesty and vulnerability that I really appreciated. I learned about racism and white privilege a long time ago. It was actually part of my education process. And I found that I got really complacent. And it's not that I thought it went away, but I just stopped getting involved. And I think, the circumstances of this year, last year, the increased movement, the Black Lives movement, Black Lives Matter movement have kind of energized a lot of people. including me. It's funny because with Facebook, I have Facebook group, it's Black Lives Matter Arizona, and they keep like cutting me off. And I keep going back in saying, no, I want to know what they're doing. It's a social movement and really understanding it. But being able to talk with my neighbors about what it means, that it's not just, you know, violent looters, that it's really a social movement to try to make people more aware of the systemic racism. You know, some of them can hear it and some of them can't, but I'm trying to be more active or proactive in the discussion. And one of the things that I liked a lot about the class was that 103 things you could do. I mean, I thought, oh, these are things I can do. So, you know, it's like writing letters or, you know, talking with people. And, you know, there's, you know, I'm a policy wonk. So it's like, what policies are out there and how can we help influence what those things are and change and help promote the changes that need to happen. So I've really appreciated the group. I'm looking forward to continuing the conversation. And thank you. And I'm going to move it to Anne. This is why we did this, so that Anne was separate.
Now, there we go. Hi, I'm Ann Schubert. I live here too. And I've so benefited from this class, and I want to thank all of the participants and all of you here and all of those that are not here, as well as Judy and Kathy, for making this experience possible. When I tell people about what we're doing, I get a level of excitement that I hadn't anticipated. I've done a lot of the reading, and you know, intellectually, I knew a lot of this stuff because I for Christmas last year, I asked for The Water Dancer by Ta-Nehisi Coates, which I can really recommend. It's just a really fabulous, beautifully written book that also understands some other issues of the time of slavery. And then he also wrote one, Between the World and Me, which is like a letter to his teenage son about being a Black man. So that was fascinating. And I've read Ibram Kendi and a lot of others to go along. But what I'm finding, the biggest change in me is the level of awareness, how I'm aware in conversation of assumptions people make. And I try lovingly and kindly to address them if they're repeated, or come around to them in conversation in a different way. I find myself picking the television shows and books that I want to read based on an interest in learning more about racism, more about the struggles and successes of people of color. So this week we've been watching For Life, which is a wonderful Netflix program where a Black man is falsely accused and imprisoned. He gets a law degree and goes out to right the wrongs of others who've had that happen. And it's a brilliant show based on a true story. I've also just finished reading The Vanishing Half. Don't know whether you've read that. It's by Britt Bennett, and I found it fascinating and a well-written book. So that's just how my life has gone in the last year. And I also find that the clips, the YouTubes and the videos that were chosen for this class were spot on. They made me aware of so many things in a quick way that I could take and go, and then see it in my own life. So I am really excited about the conversations we've had, the lessons we've learned, the reading we've done. And I'm most excited because I really see myself as being a part of wherever we go from here, because I've realized this is my passion, is injustice in general, and racial injustice has been something that has always, I grew up in New York City. It's always been something that made me angry. I just didn't do anything about it because I had a really white life after that. And so no excuses. I'm here, I'm in, I love you all, and I'm moving on. Thank you.
I'm Delane Collins, and I'm so glad to be with the group this evening. I have to say that I've been part of this group and have brought me from coming in a door and seeing a bright light. I am so grateful for each and every one of you in the group. Judy and Kathy, thank you. Thank you for bringing this to our home, our spiritual home. I am just speechless when it comes to seeing each and every one of the people that have participated in this class and the level of enlightenment and openness, a caring and sharing of not only their intellect, but their heart. I'm at that heart. I find myself beginning this journey, realizing that I came from Youngstown, Ohio, which is a mostly Black community now. And I made a movie about Youngstown, and I had a Black friend say to me, how come you didn't really say too much about the Black community? And I had to really look at that. And I took self-discovery of myself. And I'm finding that in this class, there's a lot of self-discovery, but I'm finding that I'm not alone. I'm not alone. I find that I have a lot of conversation with a diverse group of people. I have them on my phone. I use my phone as almost like a prayer list to me. I want to say that I this accepting community, not only the intellect, but also a heart that keeps growing. I know for me, what speaks to me is that we are needed in our community. Each and every one of us has a gift to share. And from what it is that we're learning, I think the what I call diamonds in the rough sometimes are the gems in which the world needs right now. I'm thankful to Kathy and Judy and each of you participants, and I would love to share this with other people within our church community. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Parrish. What I am happy to say that I'm honored to be a part of the group. It's really a breakthrough. I can't use the right word for this, but I grew up in the 50s and 60s. In fact, I was born in the 40s. So I've seen a lot. And so to me, our country went a long ways, even though we have a lot of problems, personal problems with each other. And the one who's been on the group with me before we go on your side, the other side of the group, I always fall back on the scriptures. And I always use those as saying, well, we are all born from God and he created us all in his image. So why are we having a problem? All children of the same father. It's like a big pot of soup. You got corn and beans and potatoes and carrots and black beans all in the stew. That makes it a very good stew. But for some reason, people want just one flavor in the soup. Why, we don't know. No one likes just plain soup. Some people do, but not too many people. But I'm honored to be a part of this. I feel I've been in corporate sales, basic commission sales for about 65 years. And I have clients from all nationalities. So I have been fortunate enough to experience interacting with a lot of different cultures. And I find when you go from the heart and you're sincere with people, it seems to work. And I think it works because it's about truth. There's no shades of truth. Either it's true or it's false. So if you come with truth and respect, and they get to know you from your heart, or you get to know them from their hearts, then you're like two people talking in a family, because I was one who sold health insurance, and people had health problems, and they had to discuss them, because if any of you know you bought health insurance, they ask you all about your history and your father and your mother, things that you think they wouldn't need to know. So to sit with someone of a different nationality and discuss those things, it becomes like a switch. And so I'm fortunate to have been able to do that. But I will say that I am so proud that you guys are allowing me to be part of the group. I think with all of us, like we all know, when we have a conscious oneness with the spirit, all have the same desires of the heart, it happens. So that's why I'm so grateful. Thank you.
I want to take this time to say thank you to everyone who helped us put this service together. It has been a blessing to work with you. It has been a blessing to see the growth so many of you have had during the last several months. And I hope we get to continue working together to move the dismantling of racism farther along. And I'd like to finish with a quote from Martin Luther King, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., before we close out with our prayer for protection. If you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you have to keep moving forward. And our goal is to continue to move forward in dismantling racism in his honor and the honor of every Black person in this world, because we do believe that Black lives matter and it needs to be changed in this country. And together, the light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Amen. Thank you for joining us.